I am so very happy to have a wonderful friend, Robert Dubial, on the Peace Projects. I'm Cindy Paulos, and I started the Peace Projects because I got this UNESCO Peace Award, and I thought, what way can I give back? How can I give back? And one thing I've been doing for many, many years is interviews and communicating, mostly on radio. Some used to be TV, but now I'm doing it by Zoom, which is creating all kinds of interesting learning experiences. Robert Dubiel and I tried to set it up earlier, and I had to keep reminding myself I'm talking about peace because couldn't connect the first time, but perseverance furthers. Aloha, Robert. Good to see you.
Aloha, Cindy.
Robert's done some
Yes, I'm
beautiful
used
work.
to Zoom now. I've
Yes.
become relatively Zoom proficient this year because of COVID, but I've been using Skype for a long time. But
Yeah.
every app has its own protocols. But I'm glad that we can connect visually. I do intuitive coaching, and I find that that's often useful to have the visual connection with my clients. So sometimes I used to find Skype distracting, but Zoom usually I enjoy
Mhm.
seeing the person on the other end.
Well, you wrote this,
I've been
speaking visual things. You did this book, Body Signs, Body Signals, and it's a
signal.
beautiful book, Healing Through Physical Intuition, which is a lot of the way you actually do your counseling work as well. You've been a spiritual counselor for how many years now?
44.
That long, really? Wow.
Yes. I got involved in my youth. Talking about peace, I was thinking about various um, peace projects that I've done. And I used to call myself a citizen diplomat in the 80s. And how body signals got started, I started teaching the system in Russia. I was on citizen diplomacy missions in Russia, and I started offering classes there on physical intuition, shamanism, and rebirthing or conscious breathing. And so later, I was the Reiki guru of Cuba. And when I was sent to Cuba by my guides, I was literally watching a film, Strawberries and Chocolate, which was about gay life in Cuba. And suddenly I thought, it's time for me to go to Cuba. This was out of the blue. I'd never thought about going there. This was 1996. And got the date, which was April 15th. This was late February of 1996. 3 days later, the US tightened the embargo, the trade embargo on Cuba. And then I knew why I was being sent there. I'm speaking as a mystic, getting orders or suggestions from my guides. But peace is not only about um, uh, negotiation, although I have a great respect for negotiators. But there's so many different ways we can be instruments of peace. And so when I went to Cuba, I met fellow shamans and I started teaching Reiki healing there. For from my perspective, that was peace. I was promoting peace informally as an individual between our two nations. Because I'm an individual, I didn't have official status from the United States. As a matter of fact, I generally went, in Russian, they would say kak zayats, like a rabbit. That means surreptitiously, under the radar, through Cancun. Because in those days, even now, we can't really travel 100% freely in Cuba. There's still restrictions. Um, but if we're sent to places, we find a way to do the work.
You in a way,
Now,
you're a traveling diplomat of the spiritual, because you've always been very true to your inner self and to your own guides and share that in your teaching. And I kind of wonder in these travels, and you have traveled the whole world and have a part-time residence in Thailand and spend a lot of time traveling. And as a citizen of the world and not just of one country, and as a person who is looking at things as a spiritual counselor, are you able to have more freedom to communicate the truth and not represent yourself as one person from one country, but just a soul that is trying to help people?
I realize that I'm always representing the United States.
Interesting.
I'm always seen as an American. And yet, many times, I've been told you are not a typical American because they expect Americans to be materialistic and good business people. And I come from a different perspective as a mystic. And so for me, the key of my work is respecting the local culture. That means finding out about it. In Thailand, weekly, usually when I'm there Tuesday mornings, I take a walk around the old city. There are many temples and chedis or stupas, many sacred sites there. And I have a little circuit. I go to 3 different sites and I make offerings. And no Falang, no Howleys do this.
No,
I'm the only, my friend Sam and I are the only Howleys that I've ever seen doing this.
for those who are
But Thai
watching, who
people
don't
are
understand
very,
Hawaiian, I have to translate here. Some people may not know haole in Hawaiian means a white person.
yes, white person, gringo, we say Falang in Thai, same thing. So I try to respect the local culture wherever I am. I remember I decided to walk up the mountain overlooking Chiang Mai, and this was in the hot season, but it wasn't that bad. But uh, nobody does this except for sacred purposes. In other words, it's a sacred mountain. So if you're walking up 3,500 feet, or I guess really it's only 2,500, but it's a steep trek. My driver in the taxi that I took to the trailhead, he knew why I was doing it. I probably explained it to him because I speak Thai, but he literally hugged me. He didn't know me, but he hugged me as I got out of the taxi because I was honoring the sacred mountain. That was very impressive to me that he got it. He was very pleased by my gesture of respect to the sacred mountain. So that's how I'm doing the peace. I'm promoting peace on the earth through shamanism. That's primarily how I do it. I used to, in Russia and Cuba, teach groups. The last time I was in Cuba in 2005, there's no freedom of assembly there. But I promoted a free meeting at the Anglican Cathedral, and literally was people were sitting in the aisles. 500 people showed up.
Wow.
Only with me, the Cubans allowed me to have groups, like even large groups, which are not allowed in that country.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not because of me, it's because of the work I'm doing. In other words, I felt protected by spirit. I felt supported by spirit. So if spirit told me have a public meeting, I didn't worry about this is against the law. I could get arrested. I never worried about those things, that's counterproductive anyway. I mean, sometimes after I left the country, then I would think about this. Even recently in Mexico, I talked my way in to do a meditation by a vortex in Los Cabos. And afterwards, I realized this was a closed resort. How did you do this? because when there's a need for it, we get support. So we need to ask for that support and really expect it from whatever you want to call it, from spirit, from your inner guidance, from your soul, your inner self. It's there. That support is there when we're doing work that's bigger than us. I think of peace as kind of, it transcends personal boundaries. Right now, or recently, well, even now, during the election, I decided to align with Gaia rather than, a political party or a particular candidate, to align with Gaia and her interests, Gaia being the light body of the earth. And so lately I've been working with my friends, the Kachinas from Arizona. It's all one planet, right? So even though I'm here in Maui, I'm working with the Kachinas, and I'm working with opening up a upshoot vortex in the Capitol building. I can do that wherever I am, but I'm doing it for the benefit of the earth, not to punish a particular party or a particular person or promote someone else. I want to transcend political boundaries in my work. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah,
that's my attitude.
let's talk about being a shaman, because when you started becoming a shaman and doing shaman work, it wasn't quite as accepted or understood. I think Carlos Castaneda and maybe a couple of people were shamans understood it. And since then it's become sometimes now commercialized quite a bit by a few people who think that they can make a lot of money by calling themselves a shaman or taking a course in shamanism, and then they're but shamanism is something that goes into a higher level that is more than just taking a course. You wrote a book that talks about this, and I like the fact that you talked about being a practical shaman. Because I like even the term practical mysticism, because you can go into all these places, but unless you can bring it back into your daily life and in ways that people can be helped by it and understood, a lot of that might just be for your own ego. So when you started the path of shamanism, what brought you to that point where you felt like you could call yourself a shaman?
I kind of went through a field of resistance. I had started an Egyptian healing group in Chicago, my hometown. And right at the very beginning, I met a shaman from Mexico. And my guide said, include shamanism as part of your group topic. This was not on my original agenda at all. But I, followed orders. I followed their suggestion. So I was doing the Egyptian part. Jose was doing the shamanistic part. That opened me up to a different perspective. Then Elizabeth Cogburn, whom she was my first shamanic teacher, she was teaching a weekend workshop combining the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, with shamanism. So again, a very eclectic thing. I was already a Kabbalist studying Kabbalah. And so I came to shamanism through Egyptian healing and the Kabbalah, you know, other forms of healing and mysticism that I was already familiar with. And I felt more grounded. I'm an Aquarian, so I'm not naturally grounded. Um, and shamanism really helped me feel my connection with the earth. And I became a pipe carrier. This was in the early 80s. So actually, Native American spirituality was very popular in the 80s.
Mhm.
There were, Native American gift stores. It was all over the place. But I would lead full moon meditations or various groups in the woods. Um, you know, urban people, my urban students would sometimes come in the mud wearing high heels. It's like urban people, it's like, what are you thinking? It's the wet season. We're walking in the woods. Why would you wear heels, But it was just like introducing them to a different mindset. But it's the power of the earth. The earth is our mother, but we are a facet of the earth. Every individual, the shaman believes that we're all facets of Mother Earth. We're all outcroppings. We're all manifestations of Mother Earth. So as we know here in Hawaii, there's a native tradition which supports that. Sometimes they're called kahunas here. But there's a native Hawaiian spiritual tradition to work with healing, to work with plants, to work with power, the power like the weather, for example. I consider myself a weather working shaman. So I expect the weather to cooperate with me. And if I'm told, go to Piholo in the mountains where it rains a lot, Monday morning, I go. If I'm told to go at 11, I go at 11. And I expect the weather to cooperate, not because of ego, but because that's the timing that I'm meant to be in. So I feel countless times I felt the support of Mother Earth. People who say, well, we can't do it because of the weather. Not a valid excuse when you're a shaman. Sometimes I've done ritual more than once where it would be raining the whole time of the ritual. And then when the ritual was over, the rain would stop. And it would vice versa as well. I'd be visiting a sacred site, the sun would come up. As soon as I finished my visit, it started raining. So I'm kind of just used to that elasticity, the give and take. I really encourage people to have that attitude, the give and take attitude that we are a part of nature. We're really not separate from nature at all. So the peace implies there's no separation. So if we have to visit a place and try to commune with it, that's a whole different thing. I remember many years ago, before I moved to Maui, I was on the winter solstice offering Pele at the summit of Haleakala. I was doing a ritual and, I threw a bottle of gin into the crater and a papaya. And this kid, he was, it was just a friend of mine and I, but he was like a 13-year-old kid. He was with his family, but he was present for the meditation. And it felt like he was meant to be there. He was a witness for this. And, hopefully I helped him become a budding shaman, or it was part of his life purpose. I thought, what is this kid doing here? I want privacy. That's, as a shaman, it's like a war between my shamanism and my Aquarian nature.
Yes.
My Aquarian is very inclusive, and my shaman is very private.
I'm very private,
I
and I understand that, and I'm an Aquarian, but I feel private, and I've been having to follow what you said in the beginning is following that intuition into letting that private self out more and more, and that's part of why I'm doing these Zoom meetings. A part of you that I love that you don't talk about as much, but I have seen this part of you that I really respect as an astrologer, and I don't know if you've heard about it, on December 21st, which happens to be the solstice, winter solstice, Jupiter and Saturn are aligning. The first time that they've aligned like this in 800 years, and what it's called the Christmas star, because it's happening right before Christmas, and it's going to have
visible.
It's very, very visible. They're closely aligned to each other to almost appear as one mega celestial body or Christmas star in the night sky. So it says this celestial synchronization has been imminent since summer as the two planets have been moving closer in the night sky. So you know about Jupiter and you know about Saturn, and then you know about the power of the solstice. What is your take on this energy of these two planets coming at winter solstice so close that they cause a bright light in the sky at night?
Jupiter is expansive. Saturn is constricting, not in a bad way, but it focuses. But Jupiter expands. So for me, I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head here. It's a balance. So it's the balance, which is what we've been really talking about just now, that balance between the introspection and the sharing. So the balance of being open to new ideas. And now with COVID, we're reaching a new soul level as humanity. So it's being open for doing things in a new way. But at the same time, Saturn grounds us. So, and you know, it's also interesting. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. And so at the solstice, we end Sagittarius
Right.
and begin Capricorn. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So it really is that point of focus, that point of balance between the two signs. That's what I would say. I would say it's an opportunity to ask for balance, to breathe in balance from the cosmos. The balance is available, but we always have free will. So we need to say, I choose balance. Please give me balance. Lately, my guys have been using the affirmation, I choose. Earlier this year, they gave me an affirmation which still is kind of mind blowing. They suggested I say, I choose divinity. And transcendence, I can understand, but divinity seems a little presumptuous because I
Not at
still
all.
have that,
Not at
you
all.
know,
Totally love I choose divinity. In fact, I'm going to take it. And I'm glad you brought that because I'm going to use that, which brings me to a topic I did want to ask you about. I've been a friend of yours for years, and I've known you actually were going to become a priest and you were studying. And I guess was it even when you're about 17 or 18, you went to become, thinking of becoming a priest and you were following the Catholic religion?
13. It was 13.
13.
I
Wow.
left seminary when I was 20.
Wow. And so
Then I
you
became
have
an agnostic.
this
I didn't
amazing,
even believe God for a few years.
oh, I didn't know that.
But, you know, from one extreme to the other, my spirit guides informed me that I should stop praying to them. They said, pray to God, don't put us on a pedestal. I said, gee, I guess there's a God then. So after about 5 years of being an agnostic, I returned to spirituality in a deistic way, theistic way, not necessarily a religious way, but uh, the shamanistic way, which is the direct connection to source. So yeah, when I say I choose divinity, that stretches me. That's an expansion of my envelope, you know, my personal human envelope. But it seems like with Jupiter and Saturn, yeah, we can say I choose divinity. That's what it's really an opportunity for us to do.
And
In
I
what,
did
2
want to
weeks?
recognize the fact that you do wonderful counseling and you've been a spiritual counselor for many years. To bring that back in and tie that into the piece, when you have people coming to you, I know they want, because you're psychic, they want direction on what to do, but a lot of times they come to you, I'm sure one of the most asked things for people who are psychics also is about relationships. And sometimes when they're at turmoil within themselves, they want help to come to some kind of peace. So how do you use peace to bring someone who's going through a very hard time or lack of decisions or complete unknowing of what they should do in their life? How do you bring them to that state of peace?
What I just got chills on in response, which is validation. is I remind people I am whole and complete right now in this moment, so that we divorce ourselves, so to speak, from the concept I need someone specific to make me happy, or I cannot be complete without a relationship. So it's that idea. I think we hear this a lot in the New Age, but you're whole and complete. And so you give, not because you need something back, but you have abundance. You have abundance of love. You have abundance of peace. And so you share that. You share that with your relationship. You share that with humanity. You share it with the planet. But it's that concept, I can't give what I don't have. So we cultivate the peace inside. There's always a connection between soul, between our angels or spirit guides, and our human personalities. And really, I think we're getting a glimpse of this now. The human personality, as we know it, is just the tip of the iceberg of who we are. So often, conventional therapy has said it's been more behavioristic, like, I'll help you cope with the world and change your behavior so you can just fit in into society. But my approach is very different. My healing finger is buzzing as I'm saying this, the middle finger. I'm helping people to go deeper to access hidden aspects of themselves. So we are all abundant. We all have these treasures inside. And so often we really don't manifest our full potential. And we wonder why life feels arid or empty, uh, dry, because we're not tapping into who we really are. There's such a feeling of abundance there. Um, I'm doing an astrology reading in a couple of days, and looking over the chart, I'm thinking, this person has not manifested his life purpose so far. But while there's breath, there's hope. And of course, it's incremental, right? We unfold in one aspect and then another, step by step. So it's not, taking the cosmic sledgehammer and breaking open the ego. That's, very traumatic. But knowing that we really are not finished until, well, really, we're never finished. But we're certainly not finished with this lifetime until we draw our last breath. And so there's always, I was told this many years ago when I knew someone who had AIDS, and my guides were really encouraging me to encourage him to keep expanding, keep learning, keep healing. And it wasn't like writing him off, like, well, you're terminal, so much for that. Better luck next time. They were saying, as long as there's breath, there's hope. And literally, I was regrouping this yesterday with a friend, a fellow astrologer, about my father, who had a horrific death. It was a fire. A propane tank exploded in his face. And we were seeing this from a different perspective, that literally he was burning karma. So the last 4 weeks of his life, when he was in the hospital with burns, he was burning karma. And from visiting him, I felt that he had that direct access, in his case, to the Blessed Mother. He was very devoted to her, and I kind of solidified that link, when I was visiting him. And I turned it over to her. I turned his death over to the Blessed Mother. But I had the feeling that he was at peace when he passed on. So if somebody with terrible physical pain can access that peace, that means it's always available to all of us,
Wow.
you know. So
Powerful.
again, not to judge, not to judge the physical appearance. Or, I was seeing a TV show, I think recently, about we're at war, we can't access peace. We can't feel peace until this war is over. It's like, no, we have to access the peace 24/7, or at
Yes.
least realize that it's available, no matter what circumstances are going on around us. And when I was teaching Reiki and meditation in Cuba, where there's a totalitarian government, again, not focusing on the fear, not focusing on the privation in people's lives, but focusing on that direct connection, strengthening the direct connection of my students with Source, with the light, with, in Santeria as well, the Afro-Cuban religion. Many traditions have pathways that we can access. So whatever pathway someone chooses, they can manifest peace.
Well, how can people access you, contact you, and find out more about you, and if they wish, book a session?
My phone number for voicemail and text is 808-268-8047. And my email is zarobert@aol.com. That's ZAROBERT@aol.com.
And
Or
are
you
your
can
books
use
on your
Yahoo.
website? Is your website available at zarobert.com?
Yes, zarobert.com. That's my website. I just updated it.
Good.
I just
Good.
tweaked it, revised it. So it's in a form that I'm pleased with. I
Good.
kind of clarified some of
Good.
my shamanic perspectives and streamlined the contact page. So
Well,
yes, people can access my website as well.
Well, I always learn so much, and I've known you for so many years, and I still learn more every time I see you and talk to you. And it's really wonderful that we persevere and we're able to connect today and share this time. And I thank you very much for what you're doing, the work you're doing, and for how you're sharing your wisdom. And I wish you always the blessings from the highest of divinity and peace. Aloha.
Namaste. Namaste. Mahalo nui loa, Cindy.
Yes, to you too. Aloha.